Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. This is episode number 57 of Material Issues. I'm Mark Hershberger of Pop Detective Records, and joining me as always, my very good friend from the other coast, president of the International Pop Overthrow Festival, David Bash. How are you doing tonight, David?
Hey, Mark, how are you?
I am fantastic, despite all kinds of things in my world going left of center and crazy. I'm still glad to be alive and being here on this planet and hanging out with you here on Material Issues on Facebook and over on YouTube. But
I'm glad you're alive too.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great Wednesday night, great show, interesting guests involved tonight. We're just gonna have a blast. So I'm happy to be here, David. What's new in your world?
Well, just preparing for several IPOs coming up. We've got San Diego on July 8th and 9th. You've gone blurry again, Mark.
Well, I just took a sip of gin and tonic.
There you go.
It affects me that way.
So when you drink gin and tonic, we see you as blurry. I got
yes.
Interesting elixir you've got there.
Yeah, indeed. I recommend it.
Yeah, apparently. Yeah, I drink, you get drunk. So yeah, July 8th and 9th in San Diego. And then we've got LA happening from July 14th through 23rd. And we've got, I know who this is, but I'm not going to take it. We're not going to take it, to quote the Who. And let's see. And then we've got San Francisco from the August 18th through 20th.
Right.
We've got Vancouver from August 31st through September 3rd. And we've got Arlington, Texas again from September 14th through 17th. So, yeah, it's all good. The usual minor issues with some of these events, but, I shall overcome.
Indeed. Well, I appreciate you coming back from IPO Liverpool and sending me that wonderful T-shirt. That was great artwork on the T-shirt, and the albums from Kimberly Rue. Fantastic stuff. I really appreciate it. Andy Hartley was in Crete. He missed the last two episodes, but he's back. Thank you, our friend. See you, Andy.
56 made me reevaluate things a little.
That's all right. That's what we're here for, Material Issues.
Well, welcome back, Andy. I hope you had a good time in Crete, and I've been enjoying, as usual, your good morning Facebook posts.
Yeah,
they're quite entertaining.
All good.
Yeah,
indeed.
So, anyway, so that's it, and IPO CD is in the manufacturing phase now. We're shooting for the opening night of LA date to have it unveiled. So. Looking forward to that, of course. It's going to be a much nicer looking package than it ever has been because we're using a 3-disc digipack instead of that slim jewel case. And, the best part, besides looking better, people aren't going to have the problem with the teeth that hold the CD breaking like they did on that slim case.
Right.
Everyone seemed to have that problem. This case has very strong teeth. It won't be an issue at all. Material or otherwise. Yeah. We have a really cool guest. Tonight. One of the things that we try to do on this show is bring back some people who did work that was wonderful, but didn't quite have the awareness or the reach that it should have had. And our next guest is the main man of a UK band from the late 70s called Fringe Benefit, who released one album at the time, 1977, on Capricorn Records, which right there, this is a UK pop band on a Southern Rock US label. So right there's a mismatch. And I want to talk to our guest about how that happened and how, the resulting marketing or lack thereof, because the album unfortunately sunk without a trace on the charts, which was, again, very unfortunate because it's really good stuff. To me, it's as good as a lot of albums that did way better on the charts and better than a lot of them, in fact. But it languished in obscurity, and only some of us in the inner circle of pop, as it were, have heard of it, and most who've heard it really like it. And so we want to spread some awareness about this band and about this gentleman, and hopefully people will find the album. It's on Spotify, so if you, it did not get released in the UK, not at all. If you go to Spotify, you'll find the album there, which
Yep.
to thank whoever put it up there, because that's beautiful. But we're hoping maybe for a reissue on CD, and so we'll see if we can work that out. But in the meantime, let's bring our guest on. A really cool guy, still doing music, not with Fringe Benefit, but with a few other bands that he's in. And we're looking forward to it. So without further ado, would you please give a huge Material Issues welcome to Joe John Jones?
There he is.
Hey.
Hi.
Hey,
Good
Joe.
afternoon, gentlemen.
Joe, good to see you. Where are
Great
you
to
at
see
right
you
now
too.
on this planet?
Whereabouts am I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm in a place called Dorset in the UK.
Yes.
That's in the southern part of the UK, quite close to a town called Yeovil and another town called Sherborne. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's kind of southwest Dorset. So we're in the southwest of the UK. We have a lovely day today, really hot summer day today.
Beautiful.
I'm not sure what hot for you is, but out here in Southern California, it's about 100 degrees Fahrenheit today. So.
Well, I think
But
about
very
30
dry.
30 degrees is hot here. So, if it gets anywhere near that, we're sweltering here. Us English, the English weather.
Yeah, we're probably on the same latitude.
I know it well because I hadn't mentioned this to you. You may not be aware, but I do a music festival called International Pop Overthrow. And it takes place in many different cities around the world, but one of them is in Liverpool at the Cavern Club. And so we were just in Liverpool in May with over 100 bands from all over the world, doing the kind of music that you guys did, basically, but more, more up to date, more, with current bands. Then my wife and I went to London on vacation for 6 days afterwards. So it was actually pretty nice weather while we were in both places, but not 30. No, definitely not 30.
You mean it didn't rain?
A little bit, but not
Not
as much as it could have. That's for sure. Well, I wanted to show you.
There we go.
Everyone else out there. This is my original. This is my original copy of the album that I bought in 1977.
So you're the gentleman who bought it.
Yeah, that's the one guy right there.
Well, I'll tell you this, Joe. I bought it because at the time I had a subscription to Billboard magazine, and they actually did a review of it. And based upon the review, I said, I'm really going to like this, I'm sure. And it hadn't come out yet, so I was kind of waiting for it. And then this radio station in New York, WNEW-FM, played Wanna Be With You. And I thought, wow, that sounds really nice. The review was right. So it's the day the album came out, I ran to the record store and got it. And I just got this in the mail today. This is the Canadian version. That's the only other country I think it came out in. I don't think you can see on the bottom there, but it says made in Canada and all that.
Yeah.
So I mean, normally we go through somebody's life as it started and how they got into music. But the first question I just have to ask, because I've been wondering this for years and years and years, how is it that a UK pop band winds up on a Southern rock label like Capricorn Records?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Well, I was working with another band, a band called Wild Country, doing sort of country rock music in Bournemouth in England in the 70s. And we were playing in a hotel in Bournemouth on the seafront, and a record producer called Clive Crawley, who was a record producer for B&C Records, which actually started off as a reggae label. And he just happened to like the band and said, I really like the band. Would you like to get involved and work on a project with me? So I said, yeah, that sounds great, And funnily enough, the first project that he had got himself involved with in the studio, which was Morgan Studios in Willesden in London, was with a band called the Hot Shots. And he had a hit with that particular song. And I think I played rhythm guitar on that one and a few backing vocals on a tune called Snoopy versus the Red Baron, which was a remake of the old Royal Guardsman song.
Yeah. Royal Guardsman, yeah.
Yeah, well, we had a hit with that in, I think it was 73. I think it got to about number 3 or number 4 in England, stayed in the charts for about 12 weeks. And then the re-release of the follow-up of that one flopped without a trace. And so we had a conversation. I said, look, I've got a lot of songs that I've written. Perhaps you'd like to listen to them, Clive, and he was very interested to listen to them. And we formed a band called Albatross, which was completely original material. And we had a few very, very minor successes with Albatross. And then that band folded quite quickly. And I'd written this song called All in Vain, which I played to Clive, and he really liked it. And he said, I think we ought to put a band together and record that. He said, have you got any other songs? So I said, yeah, quite a few. So anyway, we recorded All in Vain in Morgan Studios, and somehow or other, Clive, with his contacts in America and in the West Indies and so on and so forth, it came to the ears of a gentleman called Frank Fenter, who at the time was the boss of Capricorn Records. And he just happened to really like that particular song. And I remember he phoned me up. I was doing a gig, I think, in Weymouth one Saturday night, and I had this guy came up to me and said, "Oh, there's a guy from America on the phone who wants to talk to you, a guy called Frank Fenter." And of course, I'd never heard of him. And I said, "You're winding me up, you're just having a joke, I said, no, he's a guy on the other end of the phone. So I spoke to him, and it was Frank Fenter from Capricorn Records, and he said, "Hey, I really like your record." He said, "We've got it released over here, and it's doing really, really well." He said, "But I have to have an album to go with it." And he said, "I have to have it really quickly." So I said, "That's fine. I've got some songs, and so I got together again with Clive. We got in the studio with the guys, rehearsed very, very quickly, lots of material. 1 or 2 covers are on the album as well. And I think we recorded it and produced it in about 3 weeks.
Wow.
I think they gave us a budget of something like £15,000 and to cover all the costs, and that was it. Clive Corey produced it, and I think we released it over here on RCA Records, and I'm not sure whether Frank got to hear of it that way, but anyhow, he put the single out. I think it was tickling around the Hot 200 over in America.
Now you're talking about All in Vain right now, not the whole album. The album never came out in the UK, right?
I don't think the album did very much at all, did it?
It never came out in the UK, as far as I know. But you're talking about All in Vain.
No, I think the single All in Vain did.
Yeah.
And then the follow-up single, Darling, which is also on the album, did quite well. And then I think Elvis died, and I think Elvis's songs occupied the charts for about the next year or so. Nobody else got a look in, so. We found it very, very difficult to get any further with it, So
well, I mean, so again, it really was a right place at the right time at the right ears, hearing something. A very, very much a stroke of luck, and that's the story we hear so often from artists that we've interviewed, is that they happened to be at this place and handed somebody a tape, and it all went from there, which is very hard for anything like that to happen today. But you're getting back to the release, the album being released in the US on Capricorn, but not in the UK. Were you touring around the UK trying to promote the single? Or was there any talk to come over to the US to tour? To promote this thing?
That was always the puzzling thing. It would have been really nice to have been able to come over to the States if somebody could have promoted us a little bit over there. You know, it seemed as though we had the All in Vain single doing quite well in the charts initially, but it wasn't really being followed up for one reason or another. I don't know whether it was to do with the politics at Capricorn or whatever. Maybe they didn't see Fringe Benefit as their kind of band. And I don't think Frank stayed in Capricorn much longer after that initial hookup. And so, you know, it kind of, I don't think we really fitted Capricorn's portfolio of artists, really. We're a bit of, you know, they were more into bands like what, Lynyrd Skynyrd, that kind of thing, I guess.
They were into Southern rock, like Sea Level and the Allman Brothers, and bands like that. That was their thing. So that was the biggest shock to me when I saw the album. Like, what is this album doing on Capricorn? They probably didn't know how to market it because their audience was a Southern rock.
Maybe not. Yeah.
And it's a shame that they weren't able to bring you over to the U.S. But
and you know, we've seen that with a few other artists of that time period when labels were looking for a certain sound, be it the pop sound, the power pop, the new wave, the guitar band, whatever. And you found labels who didn't normally release a power pop or pop rock type album, releasing it and not having a clue what to do with it, because they were an RSO, a Herb Alpert label or whatever. And they signed people like the Head Boys and said, what do we do with this kind of music? We don't even have a fan base here. And you know, there were labels doing that. And who knows in that time period?
Maybe if we had been an American band with the songs, we might have stood a bit more of a chance of promoting it. But we never got the chance to come over and do anything, you know. So
it's just a shame nobody could get it released in the UK.
We got the single released in the UK, and it got around the top 40, top 60, and it did quite well in other countries. It did quite well in Australia, but you know, not a hit. It's all sort of, you know, lots of plays. But we never got to go anywhere with it, you know. We never got to do any tours or anything like that. It kind of just sat there, which is unfortunate. And of course, bands don't always stay together all that long. I think Fringe Benefit, I think Albatross, the band before that, stayed together for about 3 years. You know, we had a few releases and a few plays over here, but never cracked the charts. And then Fringe Benefit, the same kind of thing happened. You know, it was like history repeating itself. You know, we're sort of thereabouts, but not quite there, you know.
How long did it take you to put the band together? Because you were contacted and...
not very long, to be honest. Because, I mean, although we didn't have a hit with Albatross, we were quite well respected in our own sort of local area in the south of the UK. And we were doing a lot of work on the college circuits and universities and that kind of thing. And so when it came to forming a new band, people knew, at least in the south of England, knew who I was. And the auditions went quite well. You know, quite a lot of people who were interested in being part of it. And so it wasn't too hard to get a four-piece band going. And it was quite nice again to be concentrating on the original material, you know, because a lot of bands just play covers, don't they? You know, and so I don't think it took very long. It was only a matter of sort of weeks before I had another band or the start of another band, you know, and I already had these songs. And of course, there's also an attraction for people if you say, well, I'm trying to form a band. I've got these songs. I've got a producer from London who's interested and wants to record. Because I've recorded with Clive before with Albatross, you know, and so people are always quite keen because they think, oh, there's a chance there for, you know, make a bit of a name for ourselves. And so within months we were in the recording studio recording these new songs, you know. I think we used to practice. We used to practice out in the countryside in somebody's barn for about several months during the summer of I don't know, one of the years in the 70s, and
I want to talk about the album a little bit because it's as Mark mentioned earlier, there's a lot of variation on here. I mean, you've got
Well, I've got quite a wide musical taste. I mean, as I said earlier, I was playing with this band called Wild Country, and we were doing quite a lot of country and country rock and country folk music there. So there are probably those influences there. And I've always had a wide taste in music. I've never been stuck in one particular groove. I mean, I like rock music. I like soft music. I like pop music. I like soul. I like jazz. All sorts of music. So,
was Wild Country named after the Thunderclap Newman song?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because the guy who was played guitar in Wild Country was a guy called Terry Keyworth, and he joined Thunderclap Newman for a short while after their hit, and they'd had an advance from the record company to come up with a second album and some more singles, and I think they spent most of the money on drugs and booze. And I don't think it ever materialized, but he was in Thunderclap Newman for a while. So yes, it may be that he was influenced by that, and that helped.
And Albatross after Fleetwood Mac's hit.
Yeah. Again, that was a band. The early Fleetwood Mac, particularly, was a band that we liked. All the Peter Green stuff, I still think is great even now. Yeah. And I see you've got Small Faces T-shirt on. I mean, Steve Marriott,
animated.
Wow, Steve Marriott was one of my idols. I think he was absolutely great, and I just loved his voice.
Now, do you think, Joe, with the album, because as I was discussing with David earlier, it kind of bounces around with different genres, different sounds and things. But as you mentioned, they called and said, listen, we got to get an album. Do you think if you knew you were going to record an album and you had 4 months to record, do you think the album would have been a different animal than?
Yeah, it probably would have been a bit more of a certain style. Yeah. And a bit more conceptual, because that was quite popular in those days to have like a concept album. And the fact that we had to rush it meant that we had to say, well, I've got this song, and this song. We need a couple more. And I can remember writing one while they were having a meeting and having a chat about what could go in the album, what couldn't. I think I disappeared upstairs because I had an idea for a song and wrote one while they were having a meeting, and then came downstairs again and said, "Oh, I've got this song now. I've just written this one," and that was "Let a Light Shine."
Okay.
Wow!
We were just talking about that
song on the album, Joe.
Which often people say that's their favorite song on the album.
That's what David just said. That's his favorite. Yep.
Yeah. So
wonderful,
wow,
and that just came. It's one of those songs that I think I wrote it in about 15 minutes.
Wow.
I don't know how these ideas just, I think a lot of songwriters say, although people write in different ways, I know, but I get an idea. Sometimes it takes me a long time, but that particular one, it just appeared in my head, and I had it in about 15 minutes,
Yeah, I mean, Burton Cummings of the Guess Who used to talk about how he wrote These Eyes, their first really big hit, in a cab on the way to a session. I think it took him like 5 minutes, and that became a huge hit for him. So it happened.
I think sometimes those sort of
just curious
songs, can't they?
Yeah.
Ones that arrive quickly.
Whose idea was it to cover Suzanne? Because I have to say, your cover of Suzanne is my favorite version of that song.
I love that song. I love
a lot of people love it.
Yeah. I was touring in a pop band. I think they were called the Cavaliers in the 60s, and we did a lot of the American bases in Europe. And I had 3 albums with me on this particular tour. I think it was it was 1970. and I had Joe Cocker, I had Simon and Garfunkel, and I had Leonard Cohen, Songs from a Room, and I think Suzanne was on that one, and Sisters of Mercy and that kind of thing. I used to play that one over and over. Oh, another one that I had is an English band called Family. I don't know if you've heard of them.
Oh yeah,
With Roger Chapman. And
look at the records behind you, Joe. Behind you, Joe. I've heard of everybody.
You've probably got every single one that was ever made.
Yeah. So, anyway, go ahead.
They were my 4 favorite albums for a while, and I loved Leonard Cohen, and that song Suzanne particularly, I loved, and my voice is slightly higher register than Leonard Cohen, as he's got quite a low voice, hasn't he? Yeah. And so we just thought we'd up the tempo a little bit and sing it in a higher register and make it a bit acoustically, if that's the right word, and put some harmonies in, and it just, again, it didn't take a long time, but the engineer was good, producers were good. I think a guy called Mike Moran did a lot of the string arrangements on the album. I don't know if you know Mike Moran.
No.
He's quite well known in the UK, and as an arranger, and a songwriter in his own right. And I think he's had 1 or 2 hits, but I can't recall what they were called. And I think he represented Great Britain in the Eurovision Song Contest once.
Oh wow!
Okay, Eurovision. Yeah.
I think, yeah.
When you were playing out in that time period,
Yes.
things were hoping to go. Who were some of your contemporaries? Who were some bands that you played with? Did you open for anybody in particular? Were you playing more small pubs at the time?
It was a bit of a mixture of all of those things, to be honest. Quite often you'd be playing in a pub, and sometimes you'd be playing in a college. You might be on your own a lot of the time, not necessarily with another band. But I can remember supporting a band called Kilburn and the High Roads.
Oh, Nick Cash,
of Ian Dury and the Blockheads.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
wow.
they were absolutely fabulous. And there was another band called the O Band. Oh no, a band called O. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. They were quite popular in
I've seen the album.
They were all ones that we looked up to.
Oh, cool. Yeah, Kilburn and the High Roads. Great. Yeah, fantastic.
They were fantastic, and you couldn't, when they were on stage, you couldn't actually take your eyes off them because they were so unusual. The guitarist was he behaved almost like a psychopath, when he played guitar. So you couldn't take your eyes off him. The drummer was very good. He was a little bit disabled, and it was marvelous how he managed to actually play the drums, because he, as far as I recall, or I was told, he was partially paralyzed from the waist down. So how he managed to play the bass drum and the whole kit, I just don't know. And Ian Dury, was just a one-off anyway, wasn't he? But so talented. I still got a couple of his albums.
Oh yeah,
lurking away. I got it on vinyl and CD, I think.
There you go.
Yeah.
Who did you come up with the name Fringe Benefit, and why?
Sorry, say again.
Were you the one who came up with the name Fringe Benefit, and if so, why'd you pick that one?
It was just it's hard to remember the exact details, but it was an idea about getting a free handout, like a fringe benefit payment.
That's what the album. The album cover, of course. You're being handed money, and jewels, and
portrays that idea a little bit. Yes.
Yeah. Did you do this? Did someone in your camp do this artwork, or did Capricorn?
I think we hired a photographer for that, and but a lot of the pictures were taken in and around Morgan Studios. We didn't go to anywhere in particular. You know, a lot of them were taken on the back steps of the studio or round the front against the wall or something like that. You know, and then the artist photographer very cleverly added some graphics. You know, but it's effective. It's a nice cover, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I like it. And all the fringe benefits of being on a label, supposedly.
Yeah.
Except for the women, I don't see any women on the cover. But did you guys as a band experience some of these fringe benefits, or did it never get to that point?
No, I don't think we got that far, to be honest. You know, we might have done if we'd have had a hit record. We'd have probably been offered everything, wouldn't we? You know what it's like. You're either right up there, or you're always struggling a bit, aren't you?
Yeah.
I can remember driving to London for one recording when we were doing the Fringe Benefit album. I had an old Triumph Herald motor car, which is an old English car, very beat up. And on the way up, it started raining, so we switched on the windscreen wipers, and they wouldn't work, and we couldn't see where we were going. So we had this brilliant idea of getting a bit of string and unwinding the window on one side and on the other side, and threading this string, tying it on the windscreen wipers, and then threading it through. And as I was driving along, the other guys in the band were working the windscreen wipers, so I could see where I was going.
That's great.
And that's the kind of struggle that we had. You know, I think we got a van bought for us at one point, so that we had a bit of slightly better transport. But I can remember going to a gig in university in Dudsbury in the Midlands, and I think we must have broken down in this van that had been bought for us very cheaply. We must have broken down about 4 times.
Yikes!
And we weren't in any road assistance organisations like the AA or the RAC. So I can remember stopping at a phone box and phoning up the AA and saying, "If we join the AA, will you come out and fix our van?"
Right now.
And they said, "Yeah, no problem." So they came out and did the best they could, and they said, "Actually, this is a bit of, this is a piece of CRAP. This, you need to get rid of it. It's rubbish,
Yeah.
We got to this college. We were supposed to be on stage at about 9 o'clock, and I think we actually arrived at 11 o'clock, and the audience was still sitting on the floor in the hall waiting for us to arrive. As we staggered in with our gear, they all gave us a round of applause, and cheers. And they stayed all night just to see us, which was great.
Now, in an ideal world, Joe, we get somebody to release Fringe Benefit on CD. We get it, remastered. It's beautiful.
That would be brilliant. Yeah.
Are there unreleased tracks that you recorded at the time that didn't make the album, or are there tracks, in and around that same time period that were recorded that we could look forward to as well?
There are some tracks that Albatross recorded, which was just before that time, and there are 1 or 2 songs that I've got that we did record and put to one side, and there are a few songs that I wrote after that we recorded as well. So I'm sure I could find a few tracks. Yeah,
some demos maybe as well.
I got some demos. Yeah. I've got lots of demos.
Those are always great for bonus tracks. So
yeah.
See, now the wheels are turning. Now we're thinking.
Yeah. You got me thinking now.
The one song I wanted to talk with you about. The one song I wanted to talk with you about on the album, because it's probably the most unusual, was God an Astronaut. I mean, that sounds like something maybe Sparks could have done. Or what was the genesis of that?
That's an interesting one, that one. I read a book, I don't know if you have, you may have done, it's very popular at the time, called Chariots of the Gods by Eric von Daniken.
Yeah, I've heard of it, yeah.
Very interesting book. And he draws on lots of sources like some of the Indian ancient writings, and the Bible, where certain people believe that it mentions spaceships and being able to see what the Earth looks like from up in the sky. And so some people believe that, there were people, aliens, if you like, from other worlds, other planets, other galaxies who've been here before. And it's a very interesting book, and that inspired me to write the song that you mentioned.
It's just a very interesting arrangement. There are a lot of tempo changes. Just a lot of
some of the lines are direct quotes from that book.
Okay.
We looked at the land. What does it look like? We looked at the earth. The earth was like a garden. The sea was like a river. And that kind of thing. Direct quotes from I can't remember how to pronounce the word. But it's like the Bhagavad Gita, some ancient Indian Indian text. And it came from that. I thought this could make an interesting song. So you don't always like to write about my baby left me all the time, do you? You find something else to write about.
But you did cover All Shook Up on the album, though.
I did, yeah. It just happened to be, I think, we were sort of running through ideas of songs we could do. And when I first started in music, Elvis was one of my heroes, and he basically taught me to sing, because I was always singing when I was small. People like Elvis, Eddie Cochran, and also English artists over here like Billy Fury and Cliff Richard and so on. And that inspired me to sing. And he really did teach me how to sing. I think Elvis had a really good voice, and that he could sing almost anything. He had the vibrato in his voice. He had the rough edge to his voice if you wanted that. And I bought albums by people like Little Richard as well, because I loved the rough edge and his voice, and also that's what I liked about Joe Cocker. So I've forgotten what your question was now.
Johnny Burnett and the Rock and Roll Trio too,
Oh yeah. So we were running through this in the studio what we could do, and I said, well, I know this one, ha ha ha. And Clive said, actually, he said that would be really good. We could rock that one up, and let's have a go at it. And so we did. And I think we put some other instrumentation on it as well. And,
there's some horns on it or something.
That's it. Well, of course, Clive was a great friend of a chap called Monty Babson, who was a part owner of Morgan Studios, and he was a very old traditional jazzer, and he loved all the brass and the horns and all that, and he said, oh yeah, we could put some brass on that, we could do this, and that's how that came about.
Were you in the Beatles camp or the Rolling Stones camp, and how did those kind of bands
it's
affect
interesting, isn't it? I guess I was in the Rolling Stones for a while, but then you have to sort of at some point think, I like the Rolling Stones, because I do like rock and roll, I do like blues. And the Rolling Stones came from that side of it, really. Beatles had a bit more imagination and creativity to versatility, perhaps, to their work. And it was totally different from the Stones, wasn't it? It's interesting because I'm great friends with a guy called Howie Casey. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he used to play tenor sax with Paul McCartney and Wings.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And so we often end up playing a lot of McCartney songs together, occasionally go out as a duo called Casey Jones and or the Beatles with Wings tribute band. But I'm also a great fan of a guy called David Bowie. And
you may have heard him.
I occasionally do a David Bowie tribute band as well. So I like all sorts of music, and
you're still out there playing today, right? You're still you still play.
I'm quite busy. I got a solo show that I do, which tends to be lots of 60s and 70s stuff. So people who like all the old rock and roll numbers and rock and roll pop numbers come along and listen to that. I play in a duo trio with Howie. I play in a rock band called QED, and that features some of my original material as well as some covers. I do the David Bowie tribute. I've also just hooked up with the blues band because I've always liked blues, and some guy was advertising on a site called Join My Band.
That kind of says it, doesn't it?
And I thought, that sounds interesting. So I got in touch with them, and they come from Devon, which is a bit further west, southwest UK, and they do jump blues, all the sort of jump blues songs, Muddy Waters and Sonny Boy Williamson, and all that songs from the 40s and 50s era. And I play a little bit of blues harp, and I've always thought that it would be a good idea if I could develop that a bit further, and so I get a chance to play blues harp as well as sing lots of good old blues songs, and we play a lot of car shows over here.
Especially if you're ever incarcerated, that comes in handy. All right, I just had to go there. It was funny.
Oh yes, so last week I think I had three gigs. This week I've got 2. I've got one on Saturday, which is Beatles. We call it Beatles with Wings. So that's Howie's 11-piece Paul McCartney tribute band. Wow. And then on Sunday we do a lunchtime show, just with the two of us playing Beatles and Wings stuff, but also other stuff as well. Because Howie was quite a well-known session musician as well as being part of Wings for many years. Lots of bands like The Who and T-Rex and people like that. So
have you played the Cavern in any capacity? Has your for example, your McCartney band, have you played Beatle Week or?
Say again, I can't hear you.
I'm sorry. Have you played the Cavern in any capacity?
No, but it would be nice. A couple of years ago, just before COVID struck, with Howie's band, we went up and did the Beatles Week. Every year they have the Beatles Week, and we played one of the theatres. Is it the Court Royal or something like that? One of the theatres in Liverpool. And some of the original guys from the original Wings band came over and joined and hooked up with us as well, and that was a good one.
Wow!
But no, we haven't played the Cavern, and Howie says it would be nice if we could. So,
you and I will talk.
Yeah,
you and I will.
That would be great, and people will remember Howie because he knew all the guys. He was in Germany before the Beatles got there as well with his band Howie Casey and the Seniors.
Oh wow!
So he's been around the block a few times. He's getting on a bit, but he's still playing as well.
Well, he plays
beautiful sax. He's such a good sax player.
What happened with Fringe Benefit? So the album came out obviously in the States.
Yeah, we tried. Like you say, the album didn't really do anything. Never released in the UK and didn't do anything in America. And I was probably about 30 years old about that time. And I'd spoken to a dad of a couple of members of the band, 2 brothers who were in the first band that I went to Germany with. He was a teacher, and I said, I fancy being a teacher. He said, do the music first. He said, get out of your system. And he said, if you still want to teach, come back and teach. So in around about 77, I said to the guys, look, if this next song that we do doesn't do anything, I'll still carry on with the music, but I'm going to go to teacher training college and get a proper job. And that's what I did. And I taught for about 30 years in various schools in the UK. Started off as a sports teacher, and then a maths teacher, and then a music teacher before I took early retirement. But I've always kept playing in bands, always kept the music torch burning, and never given up.
you and I have something in common. I taught college level psychology for 8 years in the 90s before I started this festival. So I know something. I know a little something about it. I certainly know something about driving from school to school to teach at different locations, which actually made it fun for me because I could listen to music constantly in my car before. I also learned the skill of when I was stuck in traffic, I could read my notes for the lecture of that day and make sure that I knew them.
It's quite funny actually, because this morning I took my son to take his A-level exam. In Sherborne, he's just doing his A-levels.
Yeah.
And there was an accident on the road, and we got stuck in traffic. And he was doing all his revision in the car while we were waiting. So
interesting question for you. When you're talking about your son, how old is your son?
18.
He's 18 years old. What does he think when you hold up the album Fringe Benefit and say, "This is your dad"?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult for them to relate. I mean, he knows I've been in music all my life, you know, and it's difficult for them to relate to something that happened quite so long ago, you know. And it's interesting because, I mean, I did teach music for about 10 years towards the end of my teaching career. And I discovered when Dan, my son, was very small, that he had a very good sense of rhythm. And so I started teaching him drums. And then he was too good for me to teach him anymore.
Wow.
And he's just taken his grade 8 exam. So, which is the highest level in the UK for drum kit. And I feel sure he'll pass that. So, but he's a musician, you know, and so you got to keep it in the family, haven't you?
Does he like it rock? Does he like rock and roll, or is he into hip hop? Or
well, he's a bit like me. He likes all sorts. You know, he likes what he likes. You know, It doesn't really matter what style it is. If you hear something you like, does it matter? Doesn't have to be rock and roll, does it? You know, there are some classical pieces I like, some jazz pieces I like. You know. And I've always mixed with people, I think, in the main, who like all sorts of music. And I've tried lots of different styles, you know, like with Wild Country. With the first band, that was just a straight pop band copying everybody else who was doing more or less the same thing, you know. Wild Country was a bit of a move into the sort of country folk kind of thing. And then with Albatross, that was more sort of rock orientated, a bit glam rock, because that was vogue at the time, you know.
Yeah.
And then with Fringe Benefit, that was a bit more soft rock, I suppose. And like you say, it didn't really have a particular style. And then with QED, the band that I'm with at the moment, that's quite hard rock, but you know, it goes down well, and it suits some of the stuff that I write. And with Howie, of course, that's Beatles and Wings, and so on. You know.
I was just curious because, David, you know, that's one question we've really never asked any of our guests was what do your kids think of your albums, you know, from way back when? I don't know why we've never really approached that subject, but
you go through stages, I think, you know, and it's difficult when you don't get success because you look at your work, and at the time when you're recording it, you get excited about it and you really love it when you're in the studio recording it. You think that's really great. And then you go through stages when you think actually it wasn't that good. And you go through maybe a number of years where you disregard and you think, yeah, that was then and it wasn't that great, was it? You know, and you try harder to do something a bit better.
Yeah.
You know. And at the time you like that and you think, yeah, this is great. And then that doesn't make it either. And so you think, well, actually, perhaps that wasn't very good either. So, and it's very hard to judge your own material anyway. You can get excited about it because other people are liking it and enjoying playing it with you and enjoying recording it with you. And you get record companies or producers saying this is really good, you know. I mean, I can remember when we had a song with Albatross, and I think that was a version of Darling, which was on the Fringe Benefit record. So I got an Albatross version of that, which is actually quite
Wow.
I can remember that one of the execs at the record company saying, you got a hit there. That's fantastic. That song is going to be, you know, in the top 10. But of course, it wasn't.
Now this was this was on Polydor, and I'm reading here right now. And I wish I could just find the executive at Polydor that decided not to release the album in the UK and just grab him by the throat and smack him a little bit.
Yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? It's all politics, you know. And at the time, as an artist, you don't really know what's going on with the politics of it, do you? I mean, you guys probably understand it better than I do. But you just sort of write the music and play the music and perform the music, and you hope that people are, you know, acting in your best interests will get you a hit.
Yeah.
You know, you don't even think about the money, to be honest, at the time. You think, you know, it's only sort of later on you think, well, we must have made a little bit of money out of that. Where did all that go?
Yeah.
That's the way David and I feel about this show. You know, there's no money involved with this show, but the women are fantastic.
Well, that'll do.
But yeah, that's the curious thing about the discussion of maybe one day getting Fringe Benefit album released on CD with some bonus tracks, because then you would get a sense of people who are still into that era and that music from the UK, from the European countries, of who would be interested in actually getting their hands on that. That would give you a whole different perspective on that, which I think would be really interesting.
It would be great if we could do something like that. Yeah,
we'll throw some darts out there. We do that. We're
certainly going to try. But in the meantime, I have what's going to be a leading question, and Mark will know exactly where I'm going with this. Do you still keep in touch with the other guys in Fringe Benefit?
Well, no.
But is there any vitriol?
I hear about them now and again, because I think after Fringe Benefit, I went to college, and Fringe Benefit kind of broke up then anyway. And I think that's when my other band QED started. And QED actually has lasted longer than any of the other bands that I've been in, because it's just been like a side project, you know what I mean? That doesn't get in the way, and we get lots of local gigs. Whereas with Fringe Benefit, it was like it had its life cycle, and then we all kind of went our separate ways. You know, I occasionally hear about them. In fact, here's one interesting story. There's a guy called Dave Gray who was in Fringe Benefit. He played lead guitar. I didn't know at the time, but after he left Fringe Benefit, he went off with another band, and then a couple of years later, he hooked up with Howie Casey in a band called the Slobs, and played with Howie for many, many years. And I didn't realize that until I hooked up with Howie. And I said, "Oh, who was in your band then, Howie?" He said, "Oh, we had this guy and this guy." His wife Sheila was in the band as well when she was alive. And Dave Gray. I said, "Dave Gray? He used to be in Fringe Benefit." He went, that was weird.
So do you think if all the former members of Fringe Benefit all of a sudden decided to meet at a pub, practice for 3 or 4 hours?
Mark knew where I was going. Yeah, I was going for a reunion show at my festival.
I don't know whether we'd recognize each other now, would we? You know,
the Tavern Club and do a Fringe Benefit show.
That's where I was going, Joe. That if you guys can reunite,
I can try.
Oh my God, what an honor that would be for me.
If not, we could still form a band called Fringe Benefit, couldn't we?
Well, there is that. But I would be honored, and hopefully.
And I know Howie would be interested. Howie would be interested in doing something as well, and that might help the cause a little bit as well.
Be awesome.
We'll certainly keep in touch about that. Because it would be a lot of fun for you and an honor for me.
It would be great. Yeah, I'd love to play the Cavern. That would be fantastic. Yeah.
And I wanted to revisit this poster. Somebody is watching the whole show, and they just found a sealed copy of Fringe Benefit online. They just ordered it. So,
wow, fantastic!
There you go. So we sold one copy already
of Fringe Benefit from online.
The royalties will be rolling in.
There you go. You'll see them. I hope you have a copy of the album.
I've got one. I've got a vinyl copy. And
okay, good.
it's available as a digital download, as they've obviously found out, and they've done it that way, haven't they? But if you guys are thinking of going down the CD route, I'm all for that. That'd be great.
Really good. That's really good to hear. So you have no idea how it got on Spotify?
Yes, I do have an idea because somebody did me a copy of the vinyl album onto a CD, and I thought, oh, that's an idea. But it was cheaper and probably more effective to do it as a digital album, because there's a lot of costs involved, isn't there, with artwork, etc., 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 and reproducing what you've just shown me on a CD could be done, but it might be quite expensive. So I thought maybe we'll do it as a digital download. So I work with a lot of my stuff. I put it on CD Baby. Have you heard of CD Baby?
Sure.
Yeah.
And so I submitted it to CD Baby, and we did it that way. And so I actually physically did that myself. So and you can find it on all the platforms. It's not just on Spotify. It's on CD Baby. It's on YouTube. It's on iTunes and all the others. So it's there if people want to download it.
Well, a version of Suzanne is on YouTube because I put it there about 10 years ago. So if you put Fringe Benefit Suzanne in the search engine, you'll see something on a page.
I think I probably spent that royalty by now.
This has been a lot of fun, Joe. I'm so glad you agreed to do this. And
it has been great. I've really enjoyed talking to you guys. Thank you very much for having me on your podcast.
Absolutely,
it's been great. And anytime you want to be get in touch again, just let me know.
I certainly will, and we will certainly be in touch about a lot of different things over the next year. So
fantastic.
In the meantime, stay well, keep playing.
You too. Thank you, David. Thank you, Mark.
You're quite welcome, my friend. Stay happy, stay healthy, keep playing, and
I will.
Thanks again for being on episode number 57 of Material Issues.
Absolutely.
All the best.
Have a great night.
You too, Joe.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it, David. Episode number 57 with Joe Jones of Fringe Benefit. Man, that was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun, and I'm already getting excited about the possibility of Fringe Benefit reuniting, or Joe fronting a different version. Because most of the band, most of the album is him singing. There's only one song that a different guy in the back. I think it is Dave Gray, actually. I'm not 100% sure. Let me see if it's on the back here. Yeah, Dave Gray wrote the song When She's Next Free, which is kind of a Gordon Lightfoot sounding tune. And I knew that. I knew the lead vocal was different. But Joe sang lead and obviously wrote most of the album. So if he's fronting a band, that's certainly the next best thing. But if they could actually get the four guys back together, that would be.
If Howie Casey's involved, my gosh, that's
another Fringe Benefit.
That's a Fringe Benefit.
So let's hope it all comes to fruition. Yeah. But getting the CD put out, I will certainly talk to Ray. I'm hoping he's a fan of the album or will become one. And there's definitely an audience for it. Look, Tim Allen just bought it. I'm sure he must have checked it out on Spotify and decided he liked it. So, I can't see any I can't see too many fans of IPO in general listening to that album saying it's not for me. I think it's just a matter of creating awareness, as always, and that obviously that's what we try to do here. So
that's what we try to do here, and seeing that Tim Allen went out, listened to it, found a sealed copy online and bought it. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. And it's another person who knows about Fringe Benefit, and he'll tell friends and he'll tell people and he'll post about
it. I hope so. Yeah, the album, obviously there aren't a whole lot of copies around, but if you do find it, it's not likely to be very expensive. It'll probably be under $10. I mean, even this Canadian copy of the album was under $10. So I urge people to check it out. Go on Spotify, find it there. It's self-titled, and check it out. And if you like it, buy the LP. And hopefully someday we'll be able to offer a CD release with bonus tracks. But all I can say is we'll try. We'll see what happens.
That sounds good, my friend. Well, episode 57, that's a wrap. I can't believe we've done 57 of these things, and it gets better and better every week.
Next week we don't have any guests to announce at the moment. I'm talking to one potentially very cool guest, and hopefully we'll get him. And of course, Mark and I are always looking, and the best, another fringe benefit is if we can't find a guest, you and I just talk. Or if one of us isn't available, we get John Borak to be a substitute, which we appreciate.
John Borak, I recognize that name.
Yeah, I've heard of him. But I mean, whether it's he and I or he and you, it's all that's always entertaining as well. So
what would be awesome if it was none of us? It was just two strangers on here, and you and I just watched the show.
There's an idea. We know enough people who would probably do it.
Wouldn't that be funny?
That would be very funny. Would it be very good? I don't know.
I don't know. We're having
that's up to other people to decide, I suppose. But hopefully that never has to come to pass. Hopefully at least one of us will be on. But it's mostly us, of course, with a guest or without. And either way, we have fun, and hopefully our listeners do as well. So our viewers/listeners, yeah.
All right.
So anyway,
my friend, well, you have a great night.
You too, for sure.
See everybody back here. Join the Material Issues group. If you haven't yet, tell all your friends. If you're a YouTube kind of person, go over to materialissues.com. That takes you to the YouTube channel. You can subscribe there. You can see all of our archives of the past 56 shows, plus this one, number 57.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing on both Facebook and YouTube. So check it out. Tell your friends. Subscribe. All that kind of fun stuff. And we will see you next week here on Material Issue.
We sure will, everyone. Take care until then. Stay safe, and we'll see you again.
Good night. See you, David.